Mighty Ape is Australia's entertainment and pop culture superstore with everything from movies, music, games, toys, books, hobbies and more. Mighty Ape is your one-stop shop for the things that matter most. They constantly have hot deals and exclusive promos. And if you visit their website on the click-through banner on fakechef.net's homepage, then your purchase will help support Good Movie Monday. Mighty Ape, Australia's entertainment and pop culture superstore.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning!
Morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
You mean to wish me a good morning? What do you mean that it is a good morning whether I want it or not?
Please go away. Let me speak for the love of God.
Ben, what kind of person would you be if aliens attacked? Would you would you run for the hills? Would you take up arms? Would you kill yourself? Or would you drop trow and let them have your way?
Well, you know, I'd be one of the first dead. Like, they just during the announcement, like something would fall on me, and that would be it. I don't have to worry. I don't stress about alien invasion films or like pandemic films or anything like that, because I'm pretty confident that my survival skills are next to zero, and I would die super quick, and then, you know, I don't care. I'm dead.
That's generous. You're just giving us, the rest of us, time to get away.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's you know that thing. I don't have to outrun the monster. I just have to outrun you. Like, I'm that good. I'm the you.
What do you think of the music, mate? That's the unused intro theme music from Mars Attacks. I love Mars Attacks.
I love Mars Attacks. I wanted to watch it again for this show, but I ran out of time. So it's just as well I didn't, because I didn't know you were going to be using it as the opening. Not that that would have stopped.
I saw it 3 times at the cinema. I reckon it's Tim Burton's unsung masterpiece. It's just so good.
I mean, look, I love anything that has a sleazy Michael J. Fox in it. No, it's not sleazy Michael J. Fox. It's sleazy Martin Short.
No. Yes, well, it is, but Pierce Brosnan is maybe who you're thinking of.
No, who's the guy in the limousine who always picks up the prostitutes and tells them he's got a very...
Yeah, Martin Short. But you've actually highlighted the fact that there's probably like 3 sleazy characters, and if you include Jack Nicholson, that makes 4.
Yeah, well, Jack Nicholson twice.
Yeah. Oh, shit. Well, let us crack on and dive deep into today's theme. Welcome to Good Movie Monday, the weekly podcast presented by fakeshemp.net, home of the nerdy cinematic ramblings. The show is available wherever you get your podcast from. You already know that, so please do take the time to share us across your social media pages and perhaps bring your friends to the party. My name is Glenn Cochran. I'm wearing my tinfoil hat to get me through the show, and your beloved co-host is Ben Helwig, who is all lubed up and hoping for invasion. How are you, mate?
Well, I was a lot better before that introduction.
I'm not wrong.
You're not wrong. That's not what I was lubing up for, but you know, any of my holes are a gold.
Since I mentioned that gas lift in the chair last week, that's what you're ready for. So this week, Occupation Rainfall is hitting Blu-ray and DVD, and coming up a bit later, we will be talking one-on-one with the star of the film, Dan Ewing. And yes, we thought we would celebrate that release by making today's show all about alien invasion movies. But having said that, let's take a liberal approach here and maybe alien abduction, alien infection, alien adoption. We'll just put them all into the one basket.
Is that because you chose really weird films that don't fall into the... alien invasion category?
Maybe.
Well, anyway, if you do want to win a copy of Occupation Rainfall, we have some to give away. So just follow us on social media to find out how to win.
Absolutely. And speaking of social media, we posted a reaction video to George Romero's Lost film, The Amusement Park, that went up online last Friday. So go and have a look at that. We loved it, didn't we, Ben?
We certainly did. Film of the year.
You are correct.
That, and funnily enough, both our reaction videos, because we did Amusement Park and we did Percy versus Goliath, or Percy, last week, and both of them both of them were quite animated, shall we say,
Yeah,
which is unusual.
I
Because,
think
like,
so.
we don't really like to talk about films we don't like or be negative
Mhm.
about films, and generally try and find the positive about anything we talk about. Just sometimes it's a bit hard.
And sometimes it's fun.
Yeah.
Before we do move on, some people and places that we want to thank. Four Pillars Gin, the Luna Drive-In, Eagle Entertainment, Astor Theatre, and Umbrella Entertainment. Please visit their websites and social media. And while you're at it, make sure you visit all of our social media pages and subscribe if you haven't already, and click that bell for notifications. We upload content on a daily basis, as we said. Speaking of support, though, look, I don't do this often, but producing this show actually costs quite a bit of money. So money that we happily spend. But if you enjoy what we do and you would like to chip in, then click the Good Movie Monday banner at the top of the homepage at fakeshemp.net. That will take you to a PayPal donation page. We do not expect you to donate, but we would be grateful if you do. In case you're wondering, look, expenses that go into this show include maintaining domains, website costs, music licensing, marketing, all other things like equipment and shit like that. So if you can chip in, we would love it.
Don't forget my quite heavy lube costs.
That's the bulk.
That's
Of
where
the
the bulk of the
donation.
expenses go. I'm a big boy, and I require a lot of lubrication to fit anywhere.
Ben, let's get started. Should we talk about one movie each before we really jump into the rest of the show?
Sure.
I'm going to go first. I caught a movie from last year. I watched it last week. It's called Save Yourselves. Dude, this one is an absolute banger. It's a gem of a film. It stars Sunita Mani, who's the Indian chick from Glow, if you've seen that show on Netflix. And it also has John Reynolds from Stranger Things. But, dude, this is right up my alley because it tells the story of a Gen Y couple who decide to spend a week off the grid at a house in the mountains. And whilst they're away, they're completely unaware that there's an alien invasion going on that is decimating the entire globe. And what I love about this film is that it's like a social commentary on the whole generation. And like, because they're like a Gen Y, they're completely ill-equipped to survive a disaster or an apocalypse. And so they have no skills whatsoever, and their social awareness or wokeness, if you will, is their total undoing. And dude, it's funny. Have you heard of it?
I've not heard of it at all. No.
It is really good. Look, most people know how I feel about woke culture and social justice warrior types. So this film is just
No.
like it was like
you keep it so well hidden.
This film sang to me so bad, man. It's funny as. Anyway, save yourselves. Do yourself a favor. Check it out. What do you got?
Well, I'm gonna go a bit more vintage. For a film I actually, funnily enough, only watched for the first time this week, though I've had the VHS for what feels like decades. It's 1986's Invaders from Mars,
Fantastic.
a remake directed by Toby Hooper and starring Karen Black, Timothy Bottoms, Lorraine Newman from SNL, Bud Cort pops up, Louise Fletcher, the original Nurse Ratched,
Mm-hmm.
James Karen, who is the guy who kind of the second fiddle at the medical plant in Return of the Living Dead. He turns up as one of the kind of army dudes. It's a really, I mean, like, it is clearly like a 50s sci-fi kind of thing where this kid kind of living in the kind of countryside sees what they think they see something crash in the Copper Hills, like out the back of his farm, and his dad goes to investigate and comes back basically invaded, like possessed by an alien, but the kid is the only one who can tell. And then slowly more and more people in the town get possessed, and the only person he's able to convince that this is happening is the school nurse, who's played by Karen Black. And then of course they seek help from the military, and they find out that the military are actually planning a rocket launch to Mars, and they kind of figure out that the Martians have they've cottoned on to this, and they think it's an attack, so they've preemptively come down to Earth to counterattack, and kind of it goes on from there. It's very Toby Hooper, like it's very kind of Life Force and Chainsaw Massacre 2 kind of.
It's very hokey. What I love most about this one, it's the simplest thing. I love the fact that the backyard is like clearly on a soundstage. It's
Yeah.
clearly, a cardboard hill, like a wooden hill with, fake grass put down, but it looks so charming. And that's the image on the poster as well. Like, it's
Yeah,
just,
like
it's
that is
glorious.
that's the poster image is the path and the fence like in their backyard.
Yeah.
What's most amazing though is that the film starts with the kid and his dad looking up at the stars. And kind of, pointing out things. And then the mum comes out and tells them to go to bed because they got school and work the next day and stuff. And their relationship is so wholesome and fake that it's almost as if they've been possessed already. Like it's so over the top. And you're like, no.
Mate, it's not over the top. It's Americana, don't you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, dude, it's a great one. I love it. It's heaps of fun. And it got a great Blu-ray release a few years ago through Umbrella. Our good mates at Umbrella.
Yes, it's funny. There's a lot of things that have got these releases from Umbrella that you kind of like, oh, did they release that? To almost no fanfare. It's just, they just pump out so many films every month. They just get lost in the shuffle.
Well, that's one I'm glad I snapped up. But hey, let's go to Jarret. Here's something about Jarret's segment. It's actually called PE class, and we haven't referred to it as PE class for a long time. So, mind you, Jarret hasn't really adopted his PE teacher persona either. So maybe we can get him back into character. What do you reckon? Although last year I told him to stop doing it because he got too rude.
Yeah, well, that's fair enough. All good PE teachers are. That's what motivates you to run faster.
Here's the coach himself.
Hey, this is Jarret and welcome to PE class. Now, this week I'm going to start the segment with a little bit of news, and that is the fact that Universal Sony Pictures Home Entertainment will be releasing A Quiet Place 2 on 4K Ultra HD, Blu-ray and DVD on August 11th. And while I don't have any special feature info to share with you at this stage, I can assure you that the 4K Ultra HD will contain a Dolby fucking Atmos track. Yes, indeed it shall. Then moving on to this week's releases, we've got Disney putting out Speed on 4K Ultra HD. That's right, the 94 classic directed by Jean de Bont with Keanu Reeves, Sandra Bullock, and of course Dennis Hopper. It's getting a local release on 4K Ultra HD. However, it is a little bit of a lackluster release. It is just the 4K Ultra HD disc, which means you only get 2 special features, which are 2 commentary tracks. In similar sort of fashion, the UK release is lackluster also. It does come bundled with a Blu-ray, but that Blu-ray only has the commentary tracks, an on-screen trivia track, and some trailers. If you're a fan of Speed, you need to own the Ultimate Edition out of the States because it's got so much content on it. It's a 4K Ultra HD plus Blu-ray, and the Blu-ray has the 2 commentaries, 6 featurettes, 6 extended scenes, trailers and TV spots, and it's even got Billy Idol's music video for Speed. That's correct. It is the Ultimate Edition, so if you get it now, you can pretty much get it with a slipcover as well, which looks pretty snazzy. Then moving on to Roadshow this week, they're releasing Cosmic Sin on Blu-ray and DVD. This one stars Frank Grillo and Bruce Paycheck Willis. It's essentially a DTV space actioner. However, it did get a theatrical release in Australia purely because there was space in the program, because none of the studios were releasing movies, so this film actually got a look in on the big screen in Australia, which I'm still surprised. Also coming out from Roadshow this week is Wanderer with Tommy Lee Jones. That's a DVD only release. Then moving on to Umbrella Entertainment, they've got one release this week, but it's an important one. It's Occupation Rainfall, and it's coming out on Blu-ray and DVD. Now, I have mentioned the special features for this release before in the news, but I will touch on them once more. It's got 2 commentary tracks, 8 deleted scenes with optional commentary, 3 featurettes, and multiple trailers and TV spots. And if you're a Monster Pictures collector, then you can actually reverse the sleeve of this one, and on the other side it's got alternate artwork with the Monster logo on the spine and on the front, so you can add it to your Monster Pictures collection. Then Universal Sony Pictures Home Entertainment are releasing one of the best films of the year on 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray and DVD this week, and that movie is Nobody with Bob Odenkirk. Now, the 4K Ultra HD does have Dolby Atmos, and the Blu-ray and 4K SKUs have a bunch of special features that include commentary track, 3 featurettes, and deleted scenes. Then another big release from Universal Sony Pictures Home Entertainment this week is Indiana Jones. It's getting a release on 4K Ultra HD in a collection. That's right, you get all 4 films on 4K Ultra HD with Dolby Atmos, Dolby Vision, and HDR10. Plus, you get a 5th disc with archival special features all on a Blu-ray, so a 5-disc set out this week. And also available from Universal Sony Pictures Home Entertainment this week is The Unholy, coming out on Blu-ray and DVD. That is Sand special features, but that's the way it's been released everywhere in the world. St. Maud's finally getting a look on home entertainment, sadly only on DVD. The Aussie film Long Story Short's getting a look in, but DVD only. And finally, Crisis is getting a DVD release. Now, if you want to know about this one, speak to Glenn. I think he's got a lot of thoughts to share on this one with you. Anyway, that's it for me for this week. Until next time, stay physical.
Man, tell you what, from 1 week of absolutely no new releases to loads of releases this week, I'm really torn on that Indiana Jones 4K box set.
Well, it does come with Dolby fucking Atmos, so
Well, you know what? The fact that there's a 5th movie coming means there's only going to be another box around the corner. So why the fuck would I spend my money on this one?
that is the most
Anyway.
frustrating. I do have the box set prior to Crystal Skull.
Well, anyway, that was Jarret Gahan, the guy whose firstborn will be named Dolby without a doubt. And Jarret can be found on the Monster Pictures and Monster Fest Facebook pages and social media. So find those and annoy the shit out of him. Back to recommendations, mate. Fire away with your next one.
Okay, my next one is I find myself watching this film over and over again, which is quite appropriate considering the nature of the film. It is 2014's The Edge of Tomorrow, otherwise known as Live, Die, Repeat, The Edge of Tomorrow.
That's a banger.
It is a banger of a film directed by Doug Liman of Swingers and Go fame, and starring the last movie star.
I love that you went right back to Swingers and Go as examples of Doug Liman films when he's done all these other big ones since.
I don't care about any of them. I try and bring it back to films that I like.
Fair enough.
It does star Tom Cruise, Emily Blunt, Bill Paxton, who is great in it, and Australia's own Noah Taylor. And I didn't realize this, but Brad Pitt was actually the original choice to play the lead. And when he passed, that's when they went to Tommy Cruise.
I'm kind of glad that happened because I think Tom Cruise is great in this.
I think he's great in everything. I think Brad Pitt's great in everything too, though. So I think it would have been a different kind of film, especially because Cruise, like this film is co-written by about 10 different people in typical blockbuster fashion. But Cruise brought in Christopher McQuarrie, who kind of added a lot of the comedic aspects to it, because at the time he was directing Cruise in Jack Reacher, which unfortunately is not a great film, especially if you like the film.
Yeah.
But that being aside, so basically it's a science fiction Groundhog Day involving an alien invasion. And Tom Cruise at the start of the film, he plays like a publicity, like one of the army's publicity agents. But I think he screws up. Something happens, and he kind of gets caught doing something wrong. So they turn him, even though he's a major, they put him in with the grunts, like the shock
infantry
troops at the front line kind of thing. And he drinks some alien blood, and all of a sudden, every time he gets killed, the day starts over again. So he, along with Emily Blunt and Noah Taylor, figure out that they're humanity's last hope at defeating this alien invasion.
I don't generally like Groundhog Day, tropes. I don't like those movies that repeat themselves, but this one is a banger. It did not bother me. Interestingly, they're doing a sequel, and that's the easiest sequel in the world. Just do the same movie with different credits.
That's right. Yeah. What else do you need to do?
So wouldn't that be great if they just bung out the same movie?
Yeah. Yeah, as the ultimate joke on the fans.
Yeah, everyone's watching it going, hang on, we've seen this. But then you're like, oh, have we? Because it's just repeating itself.
Just use alternate takes.
Yeah.
But basically the same, just slightly different.
If they were smart, they would have done 2 takes every time.
Yeah.
Recorded 2 films in one. Yeah. You know what? Speaking of Tom Cruise, I was really tempted to go with War of the Worlds, but we spoke about that the other week, so I thought I better not because that's too repetitive. Speaking of, so I'll leave that as an honourable mention, and I'm going to go with Super 8 instead, the J.J. Abrams flick that is practically a Steven Spielberg movie. And look, whether they want to admit it or not, I kind of reckon that Super 8 was the inspiration the Duffer Brothers had when they made Stranger Things, because they're very similar. Set in the 1980s, group of kids on bikes, they witness a huge train derailment and they captured it all on their camera. And they also happen to catch an alien escaping from the train, which leads to a full adventure through their town where there's government cover-up and the monster is on the loose in small town USA. It is a fun movie. The weird thing that's always frustrated me is there's a lot of people that hate it, and they're passionate about their hate for it. I don't get it. I think it's just a wonderful film. Are you a fan?
I remember really liking it, but I also, and I think I bought like the Steelbook Blu-ray release of it and stuff, but I haven't gone back and watched it again, so I don't really remember too much about it, except that it did have, like, one of the things I read at the time were people commenting on the sheer volume of lens flare in the film, and
that old like JJ trope.
Well, that was him doing the Spielberg, like ripping off the Spielberg trope, which was odd. Like the big complaint was like there's no light, like there's no, like you get lens flare when there's like sunlight hitting the lens, and often there was lens flare with no sunlight.
I don't mind it. It's one of those things that's clearly fabricated, but it adds to the fantasy as far as I'm concerned.
I think, like, it's fabricated the way Crystal Skull should have been to make it a bit more authentic as a Indiana Jones film, not rather than try and ape an Indiana Jones film. Like it could have made it more real. Like Super 8 was.
Why'd you got to push my buttons?
Yeah. Super 8 was more grounded, like less matte painting backgrounds and more dark, because Super 8's pretty dark. Like even for a Spielberg kids film, it's pretty dark. It's got some pretty dark elements.
It's that throwback to the 80s for sure. The ET kind of darkness and all that. But if you want to compare it with Crystal Skull, the one thing that was missing from Super 8 was monkeys.
Yeah.
What have you got next?
You do need to have a monkey humping someone's face at some point in a film. I'm going to keep it modern again and talk about Beyond Skyline from 2017.
Which is that the second one in the trilogy?
It's the second one in the trilogy, and it's like funnily enough, I have not seen the original one because I do not care for Eric Balfour. I've never liked Eric Balfour. I don't like him as a villain, and I don't like him as a hero, and I find it very difficult to watch movies with him in it. But I do actually want to go back and watch it after seeing this. And this is directed by the producer of the first one. The two brothers who directed the first one don't return for this or the third one in the directed.
There's probably good reason for that. Do you know the whole legal story behind the first one?
No.
The first one, just to digress for a second, they were the special effects guys working on Battle Los Angeles. That big alien. It's basically the same movie, right? But they were moonlighting and using all of the resources from the edit suite in the studio to make Skyline,
right? Like
without the studio knowing. And the studio were like, "Well, you're making another movie on our dime with our equipment without asking." And so there's this whole, and that's how Skyline came about.
Yeah, right. Well, that's great. It makes me want to watch it even more. And basically, for those people who don't know what this trilogy is basically about, is aliens kind of invade the Earth, and they flash these kind of blue lights, and it hypnotizes you. And while you're stunned with the hypnosis it sucks you up into this. You get sucked up into this spaceship where the aliens rip out your brains and then stick them into their kind of mechanical automatons and turn you into their kind of invading armies. It's pretty cool stuff. Like the special effects and stuff are great. And this one, like the first one, is pretty contained from what I understand. It's all set in like a large kind of condominium in LA kind of thing. This one is much bigger in scope, and it stars one of my favorite modern day action stars, Frank Grillo from Purge Anarchy, and a bunch of other stuff. He's been in Marvel movies. He's done everything, that guy. And it also, like, for a while I thought it was shot here in Australia because it does star Bojana, I can never pronounce her name, Novakovic from Raw FM and Satisfaction. Satisfaction's the TV series. She's also in the Hello
Mhm.
that we released, Monster Pictures released about 5 years ago. She is doing a lot of international things, but she got her start here.
Sure.
And it also got a couple of guys from the Raid,
Mhm.
because martial arts versus alien cyborgs always works out well for the martial artists, and you do get to see the guys from the Raid get their limbs pulled off and all sorts of awesome stuff. But Frank Grillo plays a cop whose son gets abducted, and he kind of follows him up into the alien spaceship, and then they do actually run across. So this movie is actually taking place roughly the same time as the first film is taking place,
Mhm.
because they do run across the characters from the first film, and then
Yep.
they save a baby, and the baby is the baby of of Eric Balfour, and I can't remember who his girlfriend is can't remember her name. But they save their baby, and her baby is like the prophesized, savior of the human race, who then takes the fights to the aliens in the third film of the trilogy. But
Well, that third film was recently released on DVD here in Australia, and it's very little fanfare too. So I'd be interested to see. I've seen the first two. It'd be interesting to see how that third one plays out.
it just seems to be a Frank Grillo thing. Like, as awesome as I find his movies, the studios seem to have no faith in them, and they're not willing to spend that kind of $100 million on a marketing campaign to release anything he's in.
He's the kind of guy they need to just plonk into Fast and the Furious or something like that, you know?
I mean, he was in Wheelman. He's got car driving cred.
Yep, he can fight. We've seen Donnybrook.
He would have been much, much better and much more he's Italian, so he would have been much better as Vin Diesel's dad in Fast and Furious 9 than who did they get? John Cena.
John Cena. Oh, dearie. All right. Well, my next one, I'm going to keep it Spielbergian for this. And for me, it's not a great film, but it is very hard to resist. It is Cowboys and Aliens, starring Daniel Craig and Harrison Ford, directed by Jon Favreau. And look, fantastic concept. The title speaks for itself, man. Like, Cowboys and Aliens.
It's very much in that Steven Spielberg school of, if you can tell me the concept in 25 words or less, I know it's going to be a great movie. It doesn't always work out that way, but this is definitely one of those.
The production history is really weird because they tried to make it back in 1997 and had all kinds of struggles to get it made, which I would have thought the title sold itself. But the writer is Scott Mitchell Rosenberg, who came from Marvel Comics, and he had so much frustration in not being able to get his script made that he actually went and published it into a graphic novel. And it was the graphic novel that inspired the studios to actually pick it up and go ahead with it. But it's received a lot of hate over the years. I think it's heaps of fun. And I love the fact that Favreau refused to shoot this one digitally. Like, he pushed really hard to have it done on film at a time when digital was everything. And he just felt that Westerns should never be shot on digital. So there's a little bit of integrity there.
Well, if they would have made it in the 90s, it would have probably been the Wild Wild West. Like that kind of hokey.
Yeah.
When Hollywood big budget movies were made like that, with Kenneth Branagh as the villain and Will Smith and Kevin Kline in a kind of buddy cop type. I mean, could you imagine if it was Cowboys and Aliens, but it's Will Smith and Kevin Kline?
Well, maybe that's the reason they didn't have confidence in it, because that movie tanked so hard.
Yeah, well, they just realized that Hollywood at that point, they really struggled with making those blockbusters.
Yeah.
They just weren't any good.
Because I think Cowboys and Aliens actually has, like, just technically it's got all the chops. I think it really looks good and, feels like a gritty Western just with science fiction.
Yeah.
But how's the cast? You got Daniel Craig and Harrison Ford. You got Olivia Wilde. You got Sam Rockwell, Paul Dano, Clancy Brown, Keith Carradine, Walton Goggins, I should say. The only person missing is Robert Duvall.
Yeah. Surely they needed a grumpy old man character. Oh no, that was taken up by Harrison Ford.
Well, he could have been one of the aliens.
Yeah, totally. He could have been the alien overlord. Just the giant brain alien that used his voice for like 2 seconds. Kind of like that.
Oh shit. Well, you know what? I need a coffee. Let's have a smoko, Ben. Let Guillermo take over.
What's going on, everybody? It's Guillermo here again from ScreenRealm.com, Australia's favourite entertainment website covering all things movies and television. Excuse the voice, I'm a little bit under the weather today, but it is not COVID, so all good, I guess. Let's cover a little bit of the news from the past week, shall we? Aussie actress Rose Byrne is set to play New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern in an upcoming film titled They Are Us, which will be following the New Zealand Prime Minister in the week that followed the horrific 2019 Christchurch attacks on New Zealand's Muslim community. Set to both write and direct the film is Andrew Niccol, whose credits include Gattaca, Lord of War, In Time, The Host, and Good Kill. Niccol's screenplay was developed with several members of the mosques affected by the tragedy, which saw 51 people massacred. There's a new Christine movie on the way from Sony Pictures and Blumhouse Productions. The new film adaptation of Stephen King's 1983 horror novel will be coming from Bryan Fuller, primarily known for his high-profile writing/producing television credits on shows such as Hannibal, Star Trek Discovery, American Gods, and Heroes. Fuller will not only be writing the screenplay, he'll be making his directorial debut with the film as well. And he will of course remember that John Carpenter directed a feature adaptation in 1983 with Keith Gordon playing a young man whose life takes a dark turn after buying a possessed vehicle. A follow-up to the Emma Stone and Emma Thompson starring Cruella is in the works. Yes, Disney is clearly happy with the numbers coming in for Cruella since the film opened across cinemas, and on the premiere side of the Disney Plus streaming service, the studio has already given the green light to a sequel that will bring back Aussie director Craig Gillespie and screenwriter Tony McNamara. Still no official confirmation on whether Emma Stone has officially signed on that dotted line for the sequel or whether she had a multi-picture deal to begin with, but we can assume she'll be back as well. And Gemma Arterton is set to play Jackie Kennedy in a new film titled 37 Heavens. The film will explore the relationship between Jackie Kennedy and British diplomat Lord David Harlech, who will be played by Guy Pearce. According to Deadline, the film will chart the highly publicized 1967 visit that Jackie Kennedy made to Cambodia with Harlech, the war veteran and former British ambassador to the Kennedy White House. Under the spell of the mysterious ancient ruins of Angkor Wat and far from the hysteria of Jackie mania, Kennedy opens up to David, and their connection, forged in part through shared grief, catches her unaware. The film will be directed by Mark Munden, known for The Third Day and The Secret Garden, and production is scheduled for early 2022. That about does it for me, guys. Thanks for listening. As always, ScreenRealm.com for movie news, trailers, competitions, all that jazz. Check it out if you haven't. We've also got your streaming release schedules there. Thanks so much for having me. I'm out of here.
Till what I saw that night.
The memories are spewing out of my brain right now, man. Do you remember Space Invaders?
I do. Surfing Alien.
The guy that directed that went on to make Baby's Day Out.
That's no surprise.
Come on. He also wrote Dragonheart. But anyway, that song was called Taken Over the World, as featured in Space Invaders. And before that, thanks to Guillermo from Screen Round for his weekly update. Guillermo's not feeling too good at the moment, so I hope he gets better. It's not COVID, he says. It's not COVID. I love that these days when you get sick, you just got to reassure people it's not COVID.
It's not COVID. It's diarrhea based. It's not cold based. I'm fine. Like
you can save money by having diarrhea. You don't need lubricant.
Jesus, I wish you would have told me that before our last lubricant spend.
All right, so let's just get back to things. All right, let's talk about more Alien movies, one each here. I'm going to go first. I whittled 3 choices down into one for my next one. Because first I was going to talk about Annihilation, which is that all-female starring Netflix film with, what's her name? Natalie Portman. But watching it recently, I realized that that's basically just a reworking of Lovecraft's Color Out of Space. And then I thought about Richard Stanley's Color Out of Space, and I realized I've talked too much about that on the show. So I've gone and settled with The Curse.
The Curse? I was looking at The Curse. And I thought, it's just Color Out of Space.
Yeah. So The Curse, which was based on the same story, Color Out of Space by H.P. Lovecraft. It's the second time it's been adapted because originally there was a film called Die Monster Die. But and if you think about it, you know, particularly Annihilation, where they talk about the cells splitting and mutating and everything multiplies, that is the basis for Evolution, the Ivan Reitman film. So, like, you know, all of these things are sort of taking cues from each other. But The Curse, 1987. Tell me you love this one.
I do. I really love this one.
I love it.
I also love that the sequels have nothing to do with it.
Yeah, that's right. It's like an anthology trilogy, but
Yeah.
starring Will Wheaton, John Schneider, Cooper Huckabee, and Claude Atkins. It's one of those sci-fi movies from the 80s that just like Invaders from Mars. It plays nostalgic for those B movies of the 50s, kind of like The Blob and Critters. It's a very similar kind of movie.
Just not as nowhere near as family friendly as Invaders from Mars. Much more like The Crazies. It's like the Crazies with aliens.
It's so B movie though that when the meteorite lands, you can even see the stick attached to the miniature as it comes flying through the through the forest.
I only watch this on VHS where you don't see anything but static.
Then it's like the story, if you don't know, it's about a meteorite that lands on a local farm and a gooey substance comes out and seeps into the soil, infecting pretty much everything that grows from it. The animals become rabid and soon the humans go insane. And the thing that's different from Color Out of Space, as in the story, what they couldn't do at the time was represent the fact that color is the entity, color is the evil force, and so instead they've just gone for like polluted soil, you know, to infect people. It's still good though. It's fantastic.
Well, that's the thing. It's super easy to write about a color that no one has ever seen before, but you can't show it because the minute you show it, well, I've seen it now. It just looks purple. Like, it's a different shade of purple. Yeah, it's purple.
Did you hear we did an interview with Richard Stanley way back when we started the show when the Color Out of Space first got released, and he spoke about how do you film a color that has never been seen before, and what they did, obviously it's pink and purple and blue, but they added like all of these sort of high pitch noises and like white noise and dog whistle pitched noises that sort of fuck with your brain without you realizing. How effective that is, isn't it? You know, it's up to interpretation, but that's how you film a color you don't see. You put noise in there.
Yeah, if you say so, Richard. Sure. I believe you.
Next, what do you got next?
Funnily enough, we talked about this film a couple of weeks ago when you pulled it out of the. Well, I don't know if we pulled it out of the Lucky Dip or a spitball splattered all over it. But it is Alien Nation from 1988. Yes. I want to talk about. Funnily enough, I could not find this on any streaming platform, or at least it didn't come up in Just Watch's list of streaming platforms that it was available in.
Interesting.
Although I do believe once again Umbrella have plonked it out on Blu-ray not too long ago.
Yep, it's a good one.
Directed by Graham Baker, the guy who was also responsible for Impulse. And it's James Caan, Mandy Patinkin, Terrence Stamp, I think Peter Jason, John Carpenter, stalwart, pops up in this. Jeff Korber, like one of my favorite psychopathic, usually plays like some kind of psycho villain, and in this one he gets killed pretty quickly. But it's basically a buddy cop film with aliens. Like the aliens have this alien slave ship has crash landed on Earth, and the movie was made in 1988, and in 1988 when the spaceship crashes. But the film is set slightly in the future in like 1993, where aliens are kind of integrated into society, but they're basically treated as a kind of second class citizen. It's a bit of a metaphor for America's dealing with its ethnic peoples. It's the
Great Divide.
You know what I mean. And so these aliens called newcomers are kind of like live in these kind of ghetto slums, and they have what they call them slags, is the derogatory name that they all call them by. And the problem is that they're much stronger than people. They're much smarter than people. Like the 6-year-olds are in like high school and stuff like that. They're all, and people are all complaining because they're out of work, because why would you hire a human when a slag is so much smarter? And it's basically it's a buddy cop drug movie aside from that, and it's really well done. It spawned a TV series immediately after this. It only went for one season, but then they did like 5 made for TV movies also based on the series and comic books and stuff like that. Stan Winston Studios did the makeup. It was produced, the script was found. It was like, I'm not sure if it was a blacklist, a script in the blacklist back in the day, but Gaylan Hurd kind of championed the script and produced it. And she, produced famous for producing James Cameron movies, basically. The different actors, of course, take over once this used to be a really common thing that doesn't happen so much anymore, thanks to the Marvel universe. But you had your movie stars, and when they did a spin-off TV series, you had the TV versions of them. So the TV was it Gary Graham was the TV James Caan, and Eric Pierpoint was TV Mandy Patinkin. Is the and that's the funniest thing about it is because they've got these 2 million aliens have integrated into society. They've got to come up with names, and it's just like they pick anything like Harley Davidson and Richard Nixon, and the main alien in this one, his name is San Francisco, and James Caan refuses to call him San Francisco, so he just says, "I'm just going to call you George."
Well, hey, can you guess the title if I were to give you the movie actor, and then the TV actor? So John Lithgow would be the movie actor, and Bruce Davidson would be the TV actor.
Oh, that's Harry and the Hendersons.
Yes, it is. Ding, ding, ding. Not an alien show or movie.
Close enough. You never know with Bigfoot. What is Bigfoot, really?
Well, it's a giant puppet that was the same guy inside that was the Predator. So there we go. There's our connection.
You mean Jean-Claude Van Damme?
Of course you were going to say that.
That's only for the beginning of the movie. And then he got fired.
All right. Well, the alien invasion movie that did inspire today's whole episode is Occupation Rainfalls, which is the sequel to Occupation. If you don't know who Dan Ewing is from Occupation, you might know him better from Home and Away, or even better yet, his recent role in Love and Monsters, which I think is one of the best films around at the moment. I've got a lot of time for the guy, but let's have a chat with him and talk about the movie and a few other things. Hey, Dan, how are you, mate?
G'day, brother. Good to talk to you.
Cheers for taking time out of what I assume is a busy schedule to hang out with me today.
Mate, I've just been up in Queensland with my 6-year-old. You want to talk about a busy schedule? It's been a bit nuts, but it's very grateful for my busy schedule. But yeah, I can't complain when I've got a bit of downtime to talk to people like you.
Half your luck, man. I could do with a trip to Queensland right about now.
I think we all can. People who don't live in Queensland always want a trip to Queensland.
That is true. I must admit, I did just come back from there, so I can't complain.
There you go.
So, hey, we are here to we're here to talk about Occupation Rainfall. But before we do that, I want to backtrack just a little bit to when you and director Luke Spark first worked together, which was the movie Red Billabong. Is that where you guys met, or had you known each other beforehand?
No, that's where we first met, and yeah, what an experience that was. So fun, and just for me seeing his progression, I'm sure he'll say something similar. But as a writer and a director, and even before that, you know, in his sort of beginnings in the film industry, it's just so cool as a mate to see what he has done with Occupation Rainfall, just taking things to a whole new level. And I know what he's going to do in the future. I mean, I think the man needs a Star Wars movie, to be honest. That's my my honest opinion. No bias at all. I just think he needs to be given the reins to one of those things, for sure.
Yeah, I was blown away by it, to be honest with you. And there's quite a huge leap between Red Billabong and Occupation, so like in terms of concept and scope. How soon after Billabong had he pitched the idea of an alien invasion movie to you?
It's a great point. Actually, like all magic that happens at Hog's Breath Cafe, I think I was just catching up with him because I was up there for another shoot or something along those lines. So him and his beautiful now wife Carly, who's a producer on his films, we met up at Hog's Breath, and he sort of pitched this idea to me. It was for a slightly different character, but I read it and I wanted the lead. I could see myself in the lead. I knew I got football players who had, you know, maybe had a bit of a fall from grace, who were struggling with sort of addiction issues and painkillers, and they weren't sort of the former warriors, the modern day gladiators that they once were. So I really fought for the lead. I would have been very happy with the character I was offered, but I'm very grateful to Luke for entrusting me to play Matt Simmons, that's for sure.
Yeah, right. And in that original pitch for Occupation, was there any talk of it being more than just one film?
No, in true Luke Spark fashion, because he's got so many ideas. He's a true visionary. He was. I think he's shared this story before, so I'm not daily mailing anybody. I think he was over there doing meetings for other scripts, and I think some sort of big American sort of agencies, or perhaps even a studio. So what else have you got? And I think Luke just sort of came up with it because he'd sort of imagined it and this sort of thing happening on home soil. And so such is the man that he just sort of came out and said, bang, we'll go write the script, and bit of film magic. And then here we are, you know, having just shot the sequel, and who knows, there might be room for a third one.
Well, I think there might be. I actually spoke to Luke Spark just like this not too long ago, so hopefully I can pick your brain in a minute. But before we move on to Rainfall, just one more thing about the first film. Billabong was small. Was there any doubt in your mind going into Occupation that you could pull it off, being such a high concept?
I trust Luke and his creative team because he is obviously, he's a great filmmaker, a fantastic writer, but he's a fan first and foremost. So I knew that the genre was in the right hands. And let's be real, sci-fi, it's not taboo in Australia, but it certainly doesn't have the respect it has overseas. I mean, look how well the first Occupation did on Netflix worldwide. So I trust the man. I know he knows this genre better than anyone in the world almost. So yeah, I knew we were in the right hands, for sure.
Look, the first film really caught me off guard. Like, I must admit, like I wasn't all that interested in it when it first came out, and I avoided it for some stupid reason. And then when I caught onto it, like, it blew me away. I think it is definitely one of the best, you know, sci-fi films we've produced in Australia. You know, you guys should be really proud of it. And
it's different too. I think what Luke really does is he's a huge fan of Star Wars and Independence Day, and there's lots of those little beautiful homages in there, and it wasn't afraid to have a bit of fun at times. I think Australia does, you know, comedy and very dark stuff very well, but towing that entertainment line and not poking fun at itself, but that magic of Star Wars. And obviously we don't have the time or the budgets, especially in the first one, to not to muck around, but to take our time to flesh that out as much as we would love to. But I'm just so glad that someone had a crack at it. You know what I mean? Someone had a good old go, and you know, and here we are. The second movie, much bigger budget, huge international stars joining the cast, and like we just talked about, a potential third one on the way. And that wouldn't happen if Luke Spark wasn't at the helm.
Yeah, sure. And to be honest with you, going into part 2, Rainfall, I couldn't comprehend the size of this. Like, it really is massive. And like you said, he should be in charge of Star Wars, something like that. This is our Star Wars, I guess. Was it more relaxed making this film because you're on familiar ground, or was it more difficult because of the scope?
Depends who you ask, mate.
For you.
Asking producers. No, we were certainly aware that the scale and scope was bigger, and obviously with bigger budgets, more pressure. But the world that Luke created, I feel like there could have been another step in between. But what he's done to go from the first movie, which was big for an Australian sci-fi, to go to this, which is on an international scale. This will compete with any international sci-fi. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a lead actor. This does. And on a budget of 25 million Australian, right? So that's a big budget for Australia. Let's put that in American terms, say 17 million bucks. You're not making this movie for 17 million bucks in the US. Probably not anywhere in the world. So what they've done, I'm in awe of it. Every time I see clips, I've still got my original script that I got sent. I flick through that every now and then. I just keep, my God, there's $3 million on that page. You know? So
yeah.
It's, I think one of the first ADs was it was instead of Occupation Rainfall, I think he was calling it Occupation Ambitious. Every day he'd come up with a new word for the day, because I still don't know how we got the call sheets. You know, it was a massive team effort, and I'm just so pumped now the rest of the world gets to see it.
Yeah, I've watched a lot of friends, make small films, and to comprehend how Luke, just seemingly went from Red Billabong to this within only a couple of years. It's just incredible. And you, in particular, are an action star in these. What kind of preparation goes into a role like this?
Well, interestingly, so for the first one, I just done a rugby movie, and I found it really fascinating with the amount of ex-athletes that really struggle with addiction issues, and like I said, that fall from grace. So that wrinkle wasn't in there originally. So, the painkillers and the alcohol. So he wasn't just Captain America straight away. And I didn't want him to look like just ripped. So I actually put on weight for that role and just sort of ate sausage rolls and whatever. For this one, 2 years down the track, people will notice a much leaner Matt Simmons, purely because they've been living on Spam, and whatever else they can get their hands on. So I didn't think Matt needed to be big and muscular and strong. So I certainly leaned down a lot. And I'm certainly not old. I'm only 36, but it gets harder every time, I got to say. So yeah, I leaned him right down and just did my research a lot. I just on the conflict of war. So what I mean by that is, I think when people see this, they'll see Matt is kind of in the middle, right? So obviously you have Amelia, who's very much sympathetic to the Greys and their cause, and you have other people on the other side of the coin who just want to wipe them all out, and Matt just wants to take care of his people. So he's constantly in that conflict. So I did a lot of research on that, but yeah, physical prep was just chicken and salad.
Man, look, this sounds like a really silly question, but in relation to your performance, did the experience of playing a Power Ranger actually help in the role, like in terms of physicality on camera and choreography and stuff like that?
You know what? That's not a silly question at all. I actually say this a lot in interviews. Power Rangers, so for everybody playing at home, I was the Black Power Ranger in, I think it was 2009 Power Rangers RPM. From that movie, from that series rather, from that experience and training and doing the what's called Koichi Camp. So Koichi is the second unit director. He's an icon of that series. From doing that and a lot of the driving stuff I had to do, I haven't really needed a stunt double for my whole career. And it's not because I'm a great martial artist or an action star or whatever. It's about performing stunts safely and keeping the people around you safe, including the crew. So there's a few things in this movie that I couldn't do, but very few. So there's certain things where insurance companies just wouldn't cover the lead actor to do it, especially if it's early in the shoot. But I'd say like 95% of this and the other movie especially is me, by we're talking a few split seconds. So that, it's a long story short, that movie has set me up to be able to perform and do most of my own stunts in my career. That's a great question. No one's ever asked me, but it's 100% true. Being a Power Ranger has helped my career exponentially, especially as far as the physicality and movement goes, and shooting rubber monsters in the face.
Yeah, excellent. I'm glad you took that on stride, because Power Rangers is amazing too.
It's the longest running live action series in the world. I love my time. I say the same thing about Home and Away. I think quite often in our tall poppy syndrome in this country, it's we knock things down. I fucking loved my time on Home and Away and on Power Rangers. because it gives you this groundwork, this framework. And don't get me wrong, you always want to have more time and cooler uniforms that aren't really tight spandex and whatever. But what it does, it focuses you on your work and gives you tools that you can take into any job. So I'm extremely grateful for my time. And a big shout out to the Power Rangers fans on there. They talk to me all the time online, and and it's quite funny how they're very passionate as well. Now, I met a kid the other night. He said, I really enjoyed watching you on Love and Monsters. It was great. But how often do you get recognized as a Power Ranger? And this kid was sort of mid-20s. And I didn't realize, you kind of do the math. I was like, yeah, right. You're right in the age pocket. And this kid was sort of serving me a beer at a bar. And I just didn't think of that. And he's like, yeah, I really loved it. I loved your series. And I'm very, very grateful to all the Rangers fans.
Yeah, definitely. So you should be. And some of the greatest actors of our generation come from the soap operas too. So,
yeah,
amazing discipline from that. But look, as I said before, I did speak to Luke a little while ago, and he did mention that part 3 was coming. Do you know anything about it? Can you shed any kind of light on it whatsoever?
Luke Spark, aka Christopher Nolan, no. That's the honest answer. Is I don't know anything about the third one. I've been quite busy with Love and Monsters and other stuff, so I haven't gotten on the phone to him, and he's been busy getting married. So, look, I think where we left it, without giving too much away, there's lots of story there to tell, especially with Matt and the Gary character at the end of Rainfall. So I hope everyone gets out and really supports it, because, look, I know Luke wants to make a third one, but we are in Australia. These aren't just guaranteed home runs. So if everyone gets out there and grabs the Blu-ray June 16 and international audiences love it, I'm sure the third one won't be too far.
Well, I really hope so, because I think Occupation and Occupation Rainfall are just like a creme of the crop, really putting Australian genre on the map. And very grateful to you. And congratulations on Love and Monsters too, by the way, because that's phenomenal.
Yeah, thank you. And it's actually quite funny, sort of popping up and seeing, for everyone playing at home. So Bruce Spence, who is in Occupation, the first Occupation, he is also in Love and Monsters with me. Both, I had a blonde wig and he had a wig in this, and he was an alien in Occupation, and I was trying to shoot him in the face. But it's just funny, just like what a crazy world that I can do 2 movies with an icon of Australian cinema and sci-fi cinema, obviously, too. So it's good fun.
Well, you are going to be joining me for a rapid fire video in a couple of days' time, and you've already just then answered one of my questions about Bruce Spence. So excellent. Got in early.
Yeah, well, and for everyone playing at home too, there was no run sheet here, so it's not like I stitched you up, right? I didn't learn my lines. So I am sorry. You have to throw a random one in, like a real journalist about my personal life or something, just to stitch me up a bit, pay me back.
Excellent. I'll ask about that secret sex tape.
Whew. Mate, Luke Spark directed that one too, let me tell you.
Well, Dan, thank you so much for taking time. It's been awesome chatting with you, and I can't wait to see what comes next with this Occupation series.
Mate, thank you so much. I just want to say a big thank you for your support. I know that filmmakers and actors, we just want our creativity to be given a fair go and to be supported. So, mate, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
He just comes across as a nice guy, Ben, and he is a nice guy.
He's a nice guy, yeah.
Yeah, if you enjoyed that, then you can catch that interview tomorrow in video form on our Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram pages. Then on Thursday, even better, is that we have an exclusive video of Rapid Fire with Dan, where he fields a whole bunch of random silly questions, and it's so much fun. But Occupation Rainfall is out on Blu-ray and DVD this week, and we will be giving away copies, as Ben said earlier, on our social media pages. So join us there. And if you haven't already found us, just type in Good Movie Monday, find the page, like us, interact with us.
Welcome to Bonehead Weekly Fun Size. This week's edition is
Alien Invasion.
There you go.
They're already here.
They're what? When?
They're already here. I'm by the way, I'd be the worst person to deliver that line. Hey, they're already here, guys.
They're already here.
They're over there. There's some over there.
They done got here.
They're in the backyard. They done fried up Sparky.
Chad, you want to go first?
They didn't get the corn. Yeah, I'm
you
going
have to get
with
the corn out of my. Sorry.
I want to give tribute to Orson Welles and talk about War of the Worlds. So I'm going to talk about 1990s Space Invaders. directed by Patrick Reed Johnson and written by Patrick Reed Johnson. It is
How have you guys not nailed him down yet?
I don't know. I would love to talk to Patrick Reed Johnson.
I tried.
If you haven't seen Space Invaders, people, please take the hour and a half that movie runs. It is a great Halloween film. It's about these.
It's also the only. It's the only alien invasion film where one of them has a Jack Nicholson impression.
You just took my joke from me.
Why did you take his joke, James?
Yeah, and James is right.
Jerk.
Yeah, it is the only movie ever made where a Martian lands and has the voice of Jack Nicholson. Mars Attacks didn't even have that guts. They just put Jack Nicholson into the fucking movie.
Well, they knew, Tim Burton knew that he couldn't match the genius of Patrick Reed Johnson.
Or Royal Dano.
Well, Royal Dano was actually the reason to watch it. Him and that dog are the actual fucking people in the movie.
Yeah, and also if you want to see a young Ariana Richards from Jurassic Park fame, Space Invaders for you. It is a good Halloween film for children, and if you're nostalgic for the late 80s, early 90s, Space Invaders fits right into that category. Highly recommend checking it out. Gentlemen, what do you got?
All right, so mine is a Toby Hooper just absolute shit fest that we've talked about on here many times, but I swear to God, if it's on, I'll stop and watch it. I bought the special edition Blu-ray, and Chad goes, "What's so special about that?" But it adds a few more minutes to it.
It changes the entire movie.
It changed the entire movie. There's 30 more seconds of Matilda May topless.
Yeah, it showed 5 more seconds of the right nipple.
Oh my God. It changed the whole just stopped. The whole just stopped. Life Force is a terrible movie that makes no sense, but it's so much fun. It goes off the rails so much. And the problem is, who cast Steve Rails back as your lead?
You know what Life Force didn't have, Joe? Fred Applegate.
Had Matilda May. What?
Fred Applegate. You know what? Who had Fred Applegate? Space Invaders.
You know what Space Invaders didn't have? Matilda May. James.
Yeah, she was the one doing the Jack Nicholson impression.
No,
dumbass.
she wasn't.
Heavy makeup on that effect.
But
anyway,
talk about her.
I'm going to talk about one that nobody's going to talk about, and I'm going to be the one. Directed by Terrence Fisher, starring Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing.
Oh my God.
I'm going with Night of the Big Heat, aka Island of the Burning Damned.
I don't think I've actually seen it.
Aliens invade, and they're hot, hot, hot. Not evidently the same way you think Matilda May is hot, hot, hot. These are ludicrously hot aliens, and they burn the sheep around them. They're on the island. They can't get off. And
Matilda May could have done that if she wanted.
Interestingly enough, by the way, just background information about this. If you watch the behind the scenes on this, it was an unusual cold snap when they actually filmed it. So they had to put glycerin all over the actors so it would look like they were sweating, and put them in really light clothing. And some of them were very, very cold. Most of them.
So that's what inspired Bush.
Glycerin. Yeah.
Yeah.
I see what you did there. I wish you wanted it, but I see it. Anyway,
of all the ways you could have went with that, let's go back to Matilda May.
Yeah, and her amazing Jack Nicholson impression.
If you've never seen it, it came out in the United Kingdom in 1967. U.S. didn't get it till 1971, and of course, it was put in
Australia. They call them the royal oppressors.
But that's fine. It was a double feature, and of course, if you're going to have a burning alien movie, you're going to pair it with what? That's right, Godzilla's Revenge in drive-in, Night of the Big Heat.
It's been Bonehead Weekly Fun Size.
By now, all of you should know about Bonehead Weekly. It's that American podcast from Kentucky, and that was their fun-sized edition, which they do exclusively for us. So find their show on social media as well, become a loyal listener, all that stuff. I thought we might be crossing streams, Ben, with the next one on my list, but we'll see about that. 1998, The Faculty, which came along at a time when Kevin Williamson was like Hollywood hotshot. Like, he was the shit at the time, having only really made Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer. Like, apparently all it takes is 2 to be a golden boy.
Yeah, you're only as popular, you're only as successful as your last film. And if your last film was Scream, then you're doing all right.
Well, the big distinction here is that the Faculty was directed by Robert Rodriguez, who had just come off Desperado and From Dusk Till Dawn. So he was also hot property in a very different kind of way, and sort of they came together. And look, the movie basically plays on the body snatchers concept, a bit of the thing in there. It's that parasitic kind of type of movie where, look, I reckon the movie is generic. Like, we've seen it all before. Even like Disturbing Behavior is a bit that way, but I just love it. I don't know what it is about it. I think it's a little bit hardcore, but a little bit glossy as well.
But that's what all of those movies at that time were basically reinventing. Like Scream was reinventing the slasher film, was just modernizing it slightly. And this was this was their invasion of the body snatchers. Disturbing Behavior was their a Stepford Wives kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like they're all,
bringing it to a new mob.
Yeah.
A new gen. And look, this story is about a bunch of teachers at a high school who are all sort of one by one taken over by alien parasites with murderous appetites. And some say it's a parable of teen alienation, and others like to sort of take away this subversion of the females in horror tropes. But then again, I think that's just bullshit. I just think it's a horror movie. It's violent and it's fun, and I don't think you need to read into it like that.
And there is a great scene where they grab Elijah Wood by both legs and then ram his nuts into a flagpole, which that scene I always enjoyed.
And isn't that before the aliens take over?
Yeah, that's just. Yeah, they always make out that the aliens are the bad guys, and you're like, well, I think you'll find that teens are always the bad guys.
You know how like some actors or some filmmakers have their little their signature in movies, like John Landis, it's always see you next Wednesday and all that kind of stuff. Elijah Wood should have his nuts being rammed against a flagpole in every movie.
Every movie, yeah. He should there should be like a man hitting groin with football type moment.
Yeah, like that. There should be a sign on the fridges of Hobbiton that says, welcome to Hobbiton, or you are now leaving Hobbiton. And as they're on their journey, just whack right in there. With the nuts.
Every time you went to Hobbiton, you get like everyone who welcomes you, you get a kick in the nuts.
Oh, fuck. The movie also has, who is it? Josh Hartnett when he was like a heartthrob. Chloe Duvall, Salma Hayek, Laurie Piper, Robert Patrick. Shit, this is a huge cast.
Famke Janssen.
Christopher McDonald. Yeah, Famke Janssen, Jon Stewart, Jordana Brewster. Like, it's massive.
Yeah, Jordana Brewster, who she was absolutely stunning in this movie. And the reason I went to see the original Fast and Furious movie is because she was in it. Like, I didn't give a shit about Vin Diesel, couldn't care less about Paul Walker. I was like, how is Paul Walker a star? He's like the second fiddle to Freddie Prinze Jr. in She's All That. Like, how is this guy getting to be a lead in his own movie? But the reason
guy from Meet the Deedles.
Yeah. But I wanted to see it because of Jordana Brewster. And then for some idiotic reason, whoever the hairstylist was on that film went, you know what, Jordana, you'd look so much prettier if you didn't have a fringe. And they took her fringe away and revealed this like seemingly gigantic forehead that aged her 10 years. You're like, what has happened? This is not the Jordana Brewster that I came to see. I was very, very disappointed. It was all about.
Well, back in. She's back in Fast and the Furious 9. I assume fringe and all, if I recall.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if she's got if later on they bring the fringe back. She certainly had the fringe in Debs, which is a classic. Was it schoolgirl lesbian assassin movie?
Your kind of movie.
My kind. It's like they made it for me.
What's your next one?
What would Ben like? What would Ben like?
Fire away.
Lesbian schoolgirls who are also assassins. My next film is a bit of a cult classic. Like I picked up the VHS of this, and when I watched it, I was like, how is this not like huge? How is not like everyone I talked to about were like, what? Like they'd never heard of it.
I love how you say mine's a bit of a cult classic. Aren't nearly every film we talk about cult classics?
Sometimes I think my movies are the movies I pick a lot of the time are a bit too well known and mainstream, and they're not obscure enough. Like but this one certainly is. It's
all right. Lay it on me.
It's from 1984. It is a musical. It is called Voyage of the rock aliens.
Ah, yes.
And like in pure 80s fashion, 80s teen movie fashion, it does star Craig Sheffer, who would have been in fucking everything at the time, like like Some Kind of Wonderful, I think he was in Secret Admirer. Like he's in all of those kind of movies, usually playing an asshole, and he doesn't really differ too much in this one. It also stars Pia Zadora. She was the first one cast. She kind of at the time she was a recording artist. She'd also taken her clothes off in a couple of big films, like steamy, erotic adult dramas that kind of gained a bit of notoriety. So it was a big deal that she was in this. Who else? Michael Berryman turns up as an escaped psychopath.
Of course he does.
The alien, the main alien is played by Tom Nolan. And Tom Nolan is the star of one of my all-time favorite teen sex comedies, School Spirit. He's the main character in that. And funnily enough, in School Spirit, he looks about 10 years too old to be playing the character he is. In this one, he looks about right, even though he has like a ridiculous haircut. It's amazing. So basically, this film is about these. It's about these aliens. They're flying. They're a scientific. They're on a scientific mission flying around in outer space, and they come across a transmission of rock and roll music and become obsessed by it. And so they try and find the planet that it came from, and eventually they kind of hit on Earth and travel down and try and integrate into society to learn more about rock and roll. And the town they land in is this like kind of shitty southern kind of country town. I think it's southern, called Spielberg, USA. And
I am shaking my head.
Ruth Gordon is like the local sheriff who like it's like she's playing a character right out in the heat of the night. Like the introduction to her is that she's got like looking through a pair of binoculars, perving on this muscle guy who's working out in front of his bedroom window. It's great.
Oh, God.
It's awesome. And she spots the alien ship landing and becomes kind of obsessed in finding them. But the aliens come to Earth and they land in this town, and this town is basically controlled like this high school is dominated by the Craig Sheffer character, who's like this Marlon Brando in The Wild One type character. And it's hard to tell when this movie is set because everyone seems to be kind of trapped in this kind of 60s, like they're all kind of, all the school kids are wearing plaid skirt, like the schoolgirl, they're wearing plaid skirts and stuff, except for Pia Zadora and Craig Sheffer, who are clearly in the 80s, and the aliens who were like new wave aliens. It's got this really kind of weird kind of production design to it. But the songs are great. And basically, so Craig Sheffer controls the school, and he's also the lead singer of the band. And he refuses to let his girlfriend, played by Pia Zadora, sing in the band. And all she wants to do is sing. And then the aliens come down and they've got a band. And so the Tom Nolan, the head alien, kind of falls in love with Pia Zadora and says that he'll let her sing in his band. And then there's like a kind of a clash to the two. And then in the middle, in between all of that, the local lake is had a massive amount of pollution, and there's a giant tentacled monster that lives in it, that its tentacle slowly leaks out and randomly kills people. Michael Berryman and his buddy have escaped from an insane asylum and are killing people with an axe and with a chainsaw, like randomly, kind of just intercut. And the whole thing comes to a head at the school cotillion, end of year cotillion, where the bands have a kind of a band off, like a battle of the bands type thing. It's really weird. Everyone in the movie sings except for Craig Sheffer, who is dubbed for someone else. But Zadora sings all her songs. The two Craig Sheffer's gang are basically played by a band, Jimmy and the Mustangs. The aliens, apart from Tom Nolan, are this really weird kind of new wave band called Rima, who only ever released, I think, one album. Like, they did the soundtrack for this, and they may have had like one album that didn't get released. And you can, if you search around on the internet, you can find it. This guy has just somehow found like all the unreleased songs and just just puts them out randomly on websites saying if you want to hear the music of this band. So I highly recommend that. It is a great soundtrack. But there is after they shot the movie, and the title song, there's a title song in the movie, called When the Rain Begins to Fall. And after they'd shot the movie, Pia Zadora, who must have been huge at the time, but she and which one is it? Jermaine Jackson, they actually sang the song together, and that was the hit. That was the single that was actually released. And they flew to Italy to shoot the music video, and then they decided to plonk it in originally it was going to play over the end credits of the movie, but then they thought, no, the song's too good, and they figured out this really weird way to stick it right at the start. So when the aliens are scanning to try and find if Earth is the home of rock and roll, they tune in on that music video. And
oh man,
so the movie is always like, it's, it stars Jermaine Jackson. It only stars Jermaine Jackson because of the music video that is in for the release plays in its entirety in the film. It's really weird, but really awesome.
If there's one reason for people to listen to today's episode, that's it. Like that movie, Voyage of the Rock Aliens. Put it on your list, people.
I think it actually has got a Blu-ray release now. It has come out, so I highly recommend picking that up.
Add it to your cart. And we're nearing the end of the show, Benjamin. But one guy we can't be forgetting is Adam Ross. So without delay, here's his take on today's theme.
Hey guys, it's Adam here from Adam's Just Seen and Triple M with another Good Movie Monday recommendation. This week we are doing alien invasion movies. Now I am going to pick probably the most gentle of all alien invasion movies, Arrival. Now Arrival for me was 2016's unequivocally best film. This for me just cemented that Denis Villeneuve is very possibly the best director that is working today. I mean, the dude's filmography is already stacked and I feel like he is just getting started. This movie follows Amy Adams, playing Louise here, a linguistics specialist that is sent in to infiltrate this monolithic structure that has just emerged, that has come from space. Why is it here? That's the plot of Arrival. She's offered incredible support by Jeremy Renner here. What this movie has outside of incredible production value and atmosphere is its themes going on under the hood. This movie will get under your skin and break your heart in a way that very, very few movies do. Now, science fiction gets sometimes a bit of a bad rap. Some people are like, oh, watch anything but sci-fi, because they think that it lacks heart. But all of my favorite sci-fi films, Terminator, Looper, all this stuff, they've got a human engine at the core of it, and Arrival has got this incredible human engine. So look, if for whatever reason you've been living under a rock and you have not gone on the trip of Arrival, do it. Pay attention though, because it will fry your circuits. This has got some twisted shit in it. But yeah, Arrival, if I could give movies 6 stars, I would. I remember when I was sitting in gold class at the Jam Factory and I saw this and I thought, well, that's great because that makes my year so much easier because no other film is going to come close to this. Arrival, 5 stars plus an extra one. Check it out ASAP.
And you can hear Adam Ross on Triple M and see him on Ticker TV. He has a Facebook page called Adam's Just Seen, so go and follow that. Thank you to Adam. We're fans of his and do appreciate what he does and contributes to the show. Now we're almost done, but Ben, I'm wondering, what are your thoughts on alien anal probing?
I'm pro.
Obviously, there's a great alien anal probe scene in Evolution, one of the best.
That is great. And one of my favorite games of all time on the PlayStation 3 is the South Park game, which is all about Cartman's anal probe.
Although in Evolution, it's more of an anal extraction, unless actually there's a giant alien probe as well, anal probe, where Orlando goes up the alien's ass.
Like in Osmosis Jones? Are you just talking about Osmosis Jones?
In Evolution.
Osmosis Jones.
It's horrible up here. You will not believe what I've seen. I think the first ever alien anal probe depicted on screen was in The Outer Limits back in the 60s or 70s.
Right.
Yeah, in black and white.
And did they explain
I think
why?
There's a good alien. I know, but there's still images like frame shots online that you can find of just like a guy on a medical table facing camera with his legs apart and in the air, and a doctor standing behind him with the glove, like ready.
Inspired millions and millions of airport workers, TSA agents for years to come.
I think if my memory serves me correct, I think there's a good anal probe in Communion as well, the one with Christopher Walken.
Well, if there's anyone who needs a good anal probing, it's Christopher Walken.
Wow. You can just imagine it too.
Wow.
Yeah, wow.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. I could do that all episode. So then he was going, wow.
You know what he did?
He shouldn't have done it.
It would have been like that, like the Norm Macdonald bit in Dirty Work. You know what the worst part is?
Yeah.
The lack of respect. Well, it's the other thing. But after the other thing, it's the lack of respect. But like Christopher Walken would. The worst thing about being abducted by aliens is the lack of respect. I mean, no.
You know what they put up there? A cantaloupe.
His whole fist went up there, Ira.
Oh shit! Well, there you go. We've scraped the surface of today's theme, and much is the nature of our show, we always scrape the surface of any theme, and loads of fun taken from it. Nonetheless, huge shout out to Dan Ewing for spending time to chat. You can catch those videos on our YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram pages. Kudos also to Jarret, Guillermo, Adam, Joe, Chad, and James, and a special thanks to Tia for helping us behind the scenes. Ben, it's a big thanks to you, mate. Do you have any parting words?
No.
Perfect opportunity for a wow.
Oh, wow. No. Follow us on Letterboxd.
Yes, do it.
Every time a new show comes out, we list all the films that we talk about on Letterboxd, and you'll be surprised and you'll go, wow, every time.
And has it been worth our while? How's it all tracking?
Oh, I've got no idea. I don't pay attention.
That's probably the better.
I don't pay attention to likes and follows.
We're not here for popularity, people.
I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for me. There's nothing I like more than waking up at 4:00 in the morning on a Monday and populating that list in the hopes that somebody will like it. No, I'm not doing it for somebody to like it. I'm doing it because I love it. I love listing things. It makes me feel like I've done something when I haven't done anything at all.
Well, speaking of alien probes and anal fisting and all that kind of stuff, here's a love song dedication for you, mate. This one is called "You Bring Out the Love in Me." We're going to sign off with a song by Pia Sedora from the film that Ben just spoke about, Voyage of the Rock Alien soundtrack. And what a boppy banger this is. In fact, if you ever find yourself being anal probed by aliens, just sing this to yourself. It might be better.
Yeah, except they should have renamed it "You Put the Lover in Me."
It always ends this way. Have a fantastic week, everybody, and thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
I was gonna let you go. Next time you
What time is fucking Smoko? What time do we knock off? If you're busting for a fucking shit, where's the thunder box? Do we get our daily rolly weed and 6 cold cans of piss? And can any bastard tell me whose fucking show is this?